Welcome to the Movement Podcast. This show is all about movement, giving you a better idea of how you can optimize the human body to be the best it can be.
Hey, welcome to the Movement Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today's topic is going to be something that really has gained a lot of popularity over the last number of years, and that's CBD. So what we're going to be talking about today is really trying to remove some of that stigma that some people have, but also the use cases. When is it appropriate to use it? And what are some of the things you need to be considering when trying to pick out a product? So what we did is we went out and got a good friend of ours, Gray, a guy named Matt Krause, who spent a lot of time in professional sports and now is working in different types of tactical situations. And in knowing that if he's going to apply something in those two worlds, it needs to be well vetted. And so Matt did a lot of research and making sure you get the right product. He's going to give us a lot of insight. So Matt, appreciate you joining us.
Well, yeah, really great. Thanks for having me on. Right, like you said, Matt Krause. Most people know me. You know, I was in professional baseball for 22 years. I still kind of work in and around, professional baseball. I transitioned into the tactical space over the last few years. But I still, through Major League Baseball, work through the trade show. Right at the end of the day, we're in meetings, and I get a chance to evaluate and look at new emerging products that come out onto the market. And I've been able to see a trend over the last few years, which has been the CBD, right? In 2022, Major League Baseball signed a contract with a CBD company and used it for some of their marketing as far as, the All-Star game and the postseason. So that in that adoption in and of itself, to, of course, a lot of practitioners, right? Athletic trainer, I'm also a strength and conditioning coach. And from using it from the pain side of it, right, or the athletic training and recovery protocol side of it to the performance side of it as well. So I see both sides of the fence. And then just from a general topic and my own personal story of why I started to kind of investigate it a little more, because we all go through stuff, right? We've all been around pro sports. I think the old school way of just gobbling down some pills to deal with pain, right? We've all potentially have abused that, or professional athletes have abused that over time, right? NSAIDs and some different things. And my story was I had wound up, was told I used too many NSAIDs for a long period of time. I had a kidney flow issue, and I started to look for some alternatives, right? So I think part of this conversation is looking for alternatives to deal with pain, right? Because we want everyone to kind of move free. And that was kind of why I started to look for some different alternatives. Now, gladly, I don't have a kidney issue over the last 2 or 3 years in adopting and doing some different things. And so I've been able to be a part of a company called CBD Healthcare Company. It's a topical only company. There's no edibles. They do mostly protocol driven uses, right? So it's massage, right? There's oil. And then we have some, whether you call them salves or pain sticks, things like that we can discuss and just, learn how to use some of these for pre and post activity.
Well, Matt, first of all, I'm glad you brought up the NSAIDs. And as a physical therapist in the same town that I grew up in, it concerns me when young athletes have been on NSAIDs for more than a month. And it concerns me when some of my elderly or aging patients have been on NSAIDs daily for years. And I've personally experienced in people that are close to my family and under my care, bleeding ulcers in their stomach because they had turned around and their behaviors associated with their ibuprofen looked a lot more like a multivitamin than this is to get over an episode. So the fact that, I am hearing my patients talk about an ingestible CBD helps them sleep, or a topical CBD is a way better alternative than X. I can't avoid the conversation. I have to weigh in. And I think one of the best ways that I weigh in responsibly, since we're getting new information about CBD every day, is I've always tried to take the maximal advantage of a topical that I could use. Dexamethasone that we used to, a steroid we used to put on the surface skin, iontophoresis ultrasound. Salicylate, it's in Aspercreme, we put it on top of the skin. CBD, we're putting it on top of the skin. We do a lot of tissue manipulation with scraping and deep tissue massage, and we've got to have a surface lubricant anyway. If that has an ancillary benefit, I should be able to measure that because I can do it with or without and see what their response is. My conversation with them is, if I'm doing a topical and not doing anything else, to say I'm listening to the signal, because the one thing I keep saying is the only way your body can talk to your brain about your misbehavior is pain. So
Right.
let's make sure we understand where it's coming from, the things that you could be doing to assist. And if this can make you more comfortable in the process of getting out of that hole, why would we get in the way? Because it seems to be a way more responsible and natural alternative than we had. So
Matt, let's get you to kind of give us kind of the real freshman quote unquote version of what is CBD and what's the research on CBD.
Right. Well, we'll do that, but just to piggyback off what Gray said, as far as doing the treatments, like he talked about, we don't have to always go systemically, right? We can go locally, right? We can go from a topical, and that's, one thing we want people to get comfortable with. So to understand what CBD is, right? It's an endocannabinoid. Our body has these receptors in the body. We have CBD1 and CB2 receptors in the body, and from the topical side of it, the body, you put it on the skin, or if you ingest it, and your body would adapt to one of those two receptors, right? And it helps with the pain, inflammation response in the body. And so from what I've used is only topicals. I have not used any of the ingestibles, and I use it along with the protocols, right? Whether it's like Gray talked about, some of the cupping or scraping or the eye stim. We're going to disrupt the tissue a little bit, right, to create that response. And the CBD in and of itself helps manage the inflammation response and helps with the restructuring, obviously, with the collagen, and help rebuild with the tissue, right? So it's a complementary treatment to the protocols that we already kind of use, whether it's manual therapy, right, using your hand, using an instrument, to get people to get the added or additional outcome instead of using a pill to manage the inflammation.
All right, let's take a quick break here to tell you about Symmio. Symmio is our holistic wellness platform designed to give you the tools and resources to assess, manage, and improve your clients' and patients' overall health and wellness. Go to Symmio.com to sign up for a free trial today. That's SYMMIO.com.
we got 2 new courses I think you'll like. One's a deep dive on mobility and one's a deep dive on stability. We really unpack that and show you how simple single corrective exercises aren't nearly as good as a meal of mobility assembled in a flow, in a set of stations. Do the same thing for stability. It's sort of a new way of looking at things, but it's that same old functional approach, just with nice packages that actually give you huge dividends.
And now let's pick up where we left off.
And Matt, let me just tell you, I've been using a class 4 laser in clinic for a lot of years. The benefits of the laser may not be evident in the therapy for a couple of weeks, but after I've done some manual therapy or dry needling, I'll light up the laser and paint the area simply for pain control and comfort post-treatment. Even though I know the laser has benefits downstream, I'm literally doing it to cool them off or move that circulation on through after what I would call some pretty heavy-handed physical therapy in a few situations, scar tissue, muscle spasm, stuff like that. So we often reach for something that will make them more comfortable between visits, especially since we're pushing you out of your comfort zone. Now, the flip side is there's a lot of people who just lay in their comfort zone and expect the topical to do everything. And I'm so glad that you guys had the foresight to think these are protocol based and you should be able to recognize a tangible benefit if you use it within a system, because there will be a response that you're looking for, and it'll be even better if you're doing everything else to manage comfort in between visits. So,
right. Well, the other thing we have to address too, and what Lee brought up was, say the stigma is with it, or was it a little taboo to use CBD in the past? So one of the things with the product that I've used is it became the first certified. We helped NSF, right, which is a third-party testing system that's used by all pro sports all four major sports as far as their drug treatment protocols, right? As far as from the testing. And so this is the first certified topical, or let's say personal care product.
Mm-hmm.
So it fit into the cosmetics, into the topical. And, to go through that, it was a 2-year process to help NSF, which for people who don't know out there is the one that helps go through the testing protocols for supplements. So if we talk about it in that realm, I, as a practitioner, do not say push supplements. So a lot of the parents are out there that talk with as far as their kids, and the parents are their guide, right? So I don't tell a parent how to treat their kid. If some parents are willing to use, a supplement, or if they're willing to use CBD, fine, right? So if we use the protocol or the guideline of, say, like 18 years of age, right? Some parents won't do it. Some parents will do it. I don't sit there and tell people how to manage their kids, right? But they should know out there that when you use an NSF certified topical or product, that what's in that product is in that product. It's been third party tested, and that you're getting something that's been adopted by pro sports, that we know there's not going to be any kind of bad substances in there. There are things that people worry about, and the reason why I went with this company is the fact that they were the first certified topical, and that it should give you some comfort if you're someone who's willing to try some things from a parental standpoint, and if you're an adult, that this should give you some comfort in this adoption of using these protocols and this product.
And I guess that there's a stigma associated with it, but people probably don't understand exactly what's happening. Number one question that I'd love your answer to: if I use a topical and I do some aggressive manual therapy, does the end result of the CBD even show up in blood or urine, or does it even matter? Does it go systemic, or does it stay sort of local in the vascular bed and just sort of be there sort of as a soft tissue signal interrupt, I guess?
No, it stays local in the vascular bed, right? So
Yeah.
you build up, they say, tone, kind of like almost like sunlight, right, with your skin, and you build up that reservoir of CBD locally. But no, it does not get into the systemic system. But also, in order to get the certified product, people need to understand there's broad spectrum, which there's less than 0.0003 THC, right? Full spectrum, right? There is THC in it. So when you look into adopt a product, you're looking for a broad spectrum product that is a certified topical, and then you're at the 0.003 or less THC, right?
So it's decaf.
It's decaf, yeah. That's a great way to kind of put it, so that they should feel comfortable that it's not getting into the blood system. It's not systemic, right? It's going to stay local. It helps along with the protocols, and it's something that you would use in between your treatments or visits with experts like yourself when they come.
Now, tell me, have I been using it correctly? The oil is probably better for hands-on soft tissue, but I found that the stick, the pain stick or whatever, works really well for instrumented therapy. That works really well when I have the tools. I think it just sits on the skin better, and I want a little bit more friction, I think, when I'm doing soft tissue or fascial work.
Well, listen, it comes down to, let's say personal preference. But at the end of the day, the oil, I've used the oil for cupping and for manual therapy. I've also used the stick. They both absorb nice into the skin. The stick in and of itself, has a little bit more of a base layer to it, so it will stay on a little bit longer. But you do want, a lipid-based product, right? That absorbs into the skin over time. We don't want it to be where it gets all bulky and sits on top of the skin, where you get that plowing effect, or where you feel sticky after a treatment. You don't want to put your clothes on. You want it to be a nice, a nice oil, a lipid base, where it kind of absorbs into the skin, so that you get the right glide, right, when you're doing your protocols, and as well as you get the right amount of penetration, with the right amount of CBD, right? So when you're looking at it. I think that's kind of personal preference, because I know some therapists that like the oil, and we know some people that like the stick.
Now, one more question, just off top of my head. In sports medicine, we often deal with blisters and skin irritation. Is it contraindicated when there is a break in the skin? Or if I had somebody with a healing blister, would that actually be better for pain control, or would I be better just using the typical thing? Have you even tried it with skin irritation?
Oh, there's a lot of benefits to skin, and ranging from acne to psoriasis to eczema to other things. There's plenty of research that shows benefit to skin irritations. Open wound, I'm not going to sit there and tell you that it would probably be my first choice.
Of course,
I would probably, because I don't want this to be, I don't want anyone out here to get the thing that's an end all be all, right? So it's not. I would probably still use some of my ointments and other things for open wound, but it can be used. It can be used for sunburn, right? So it does help with the inflammation process to any kind of irritation on the skin. Acne, it's been used a lot now. It's getting more adopted with some of the, I hope I never say it right, but anestheticians, right, that do the facials and vampire facials, right? Same type of protocols, right? They create some disruption in the tissue, right? And then they do their treatments, and then hopefully, with the regeneration process, CBD has been used in those protocols as well. There are some benefits for some different skin irritations, right? From psoriasis for acne to sunburns and stuff like that. There's been some really good, anything where there's going to be some type of inflammation in the skin, even around a hair follicle or on the skin of itself. CBD has been shown to show some positive results.
Okay.
And that you're seeing getting adopted, since we are a personal care product, being adopted by some anestheticians that do facials that complement their treatments. Just like instead of ice stim, they might do some of those vampire facials or some kind of tissue disruption, right? That they're going to do to create that inflammation response and the wound healing to get new collagen restructuring.
Well, see, that was my point exactly. Many times in both mine and Lee's practice, we have to create inflammation to actually get healing to go on down. But in many times, you can overshoot. You don't want to leave your patient worse off for 3 days than you found them. But at the same time, physical therapy is literally dosed stress. I got to stress your tissue. I got to stress your body. I got to stress your metabolism. I got to stress your bones, ligaments, joints, tendons. But we don't want to send that inflammatory response into a lost night of sleep or a pain reaction. So I do think that knowing that we have some ways other than just ice to cool people down after we do what we got to do, and having them have full knowledge that this should help with that, and they don't just have to go take a dozen ibuprofen after physical therapy or rehabilitation. Because the one thing I can tell you about NSAIDs is, even though they do really help with pain in some cases and often are the preferred quick treatment if they're temporary, when you take NSAIDs in a tissue rebuilding cycle, whether you're training hard or rehabbing back to normal, NSAIDs interrupt protein synthesis from its normal path. So if I'm hoping to get good collagen remodeling, if I'm basically using the stress recovery cycle to stress your tissue, get it recovered, stress, then even though NSAIDs help with the pain, they actually interrupt laying down that protein synthesis, that remanufacturing of more homeostatic or balanced tissue. So, you can find better pain control mediums, but then again, you're going to have a unintended side effect, and that is going to be inflammation in the stomach or gut lining. And it's also going to be an interruption in the healing effect, even though you might be more comfortable in the process. So
you hit the nail on the head right there, talking about homeostasis, right? So CBD is part of that ECS system in the body that helps maintain homeostasis in the body and in the healing process. So that's where CBD, helps aid in that recovery process.
No, awesome. And like I said, it's something that you gave me an opportunity just to experiment with on myself. And I hurt myself probably every 4 days. Part of it's being old and part of it's being stupid. But I've had some actually better soft tissue treatments to myself than they would have been just by using some type of skin prep without any additional feedback. So I had a pretty good baseline to work from, and I think it's a better product than I was using before.
You look at the different products, and some things you might use pre, right? You put on 15 minutes before you do an activity, and there's some things you're going to do post. You leave it up to the practitioner how you want to use the protocols, right, and educate your clients or your patient. But listen, I also tell people that, listen, it's not the end all be all. We kind of talked a little bit about a little bit of the penetration, right, for a local. When I think of shoulder. I'm thinking more like AC joint, things that are kind of more local towards the skin, patella, not internal in the, a lot of rheumatoid arthritis, good research, for benefits of CBD, in and around the foot, plantar fasciitis, in and around the elbow, right? Areas that are close to the skin, joint wise, ligament wise. If you have an internal glenohumeral joint, CBD is not penetrating to, we're not fixing the shoulder. Well, I call them like, say, surface joints or things close enough to where we get the right penetration. So it's not an end all be all, but for areas of those where I can adopt and use it in a local area and not have to use an NSAID or like that. Now I'm decreasing the amount of stuff that I'm ingesting into my body. I'm enhancing the protocols to those areas, and I'm getting the benefit to where I start to, move free and easy to where I feel comfortable to where I can participate, right? I'm 50, right? We've been through the battles, and I feel like this has helped me instead of, going the old school, grind through it, gobble down a couple pills and go, to where, listen, I have to take a few minutes. I got to do a protocol. I got to edit in. So if I have to budget a little time into my if I'm going to go play pickleball, or I'm going to go do something, I'm going to go for a run, right? I gotta budget some time to prepare. And this has worked. And even on the back end of those things to recover, and not just nothing. We know nothing is not the answer. So I guess I've learned over the years to budget in some time into those things to make myself feel better.
I think what you're giving us is a very valid and responsibly vetted tool that is way more natural with minimal side effects. It's not the big hammer of pain control, but if you need a hammer that big, then you got a big problem that needs to be unpacked a little bit more. So,
well,
Right.
are there other CBD classified products that have a higher THC? Could you go out and buy something that has a higher THC, or is CBD, is that what makes it CBD, the level of THC?
Well, no, there is full spectrum and there's broad spectrum, and we're staying within the NSF certified product side of it, which is the broad spectrum side of it, which has, let's say, the least amount, right, to 0.003 or less, right, of the brands or the protocols that I'm going to be using, or like the topical that I'm going to use for the CBD Healthcare Company, fit into that model, right, or into that ones that I want to use. So they do have less THC in them. So I don't want to sit there and tell you that no CBDs have THC, because that's not the truth. We're looking at the ones that are broad spectrum. One of the reasons why I like this company is because they are from clones, right? So those are all female. So everything in the way they manufacture it has the same amount of CBD in it. Obviously, we know if you have seeds, right, a male and female, there's going to be variations in offspring. This company, so when you're looking at how you evaluate a product, you definitely want to look at clones. They're a superior product, right? And then the amount that's going to be in it. And then as well, you're looking for a broad spectrum product. If you're going to be in some kind of system, whether you're college or a professional athlete that has testing protocols as far as for the drug treatment cycle, right? They have to go through and get tested. And you're going to be able to use a product that is not going to cause any issues for you from a professional standpoint, right?
right.
And so that's just, I don't know if I'm answering that question properly. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, but you can,
THC
I think
different
you're right. And I think that's why I wanted to ask that question, because when somebody is going out there looking to start using something, I just want to make sure that they're getting the right thing, and it needs to be
Right.
broad spectrum. It needs to maybe have some type of certification. But if they go to some CBD store, they could be, one broad spectrum could be beside another, I think you said full spectrum, that has a higher
Yeah.
level of THC.
Correct.
Right. And it's really, all right, so what are the use cases for the higher levels of THC? Is that for more, obviously
More spa relaxation, those type of scenarios. You might see it like, if you're going to go to a high-end spa, they might want to use some of those type products, because it's not going to be for a pre or post participation in a physical event, right? They're going to relax, and then they're probably at a spa, and they're probably on vacation. And let's say if you're on a cruise ship or something like that, where the rest of your day is you don't want to do a whole lot after that, right? So
is there a carryover effect? Because if the CBD topical just goes local, if there's THC in it, does it even go I mean, it's got to pretty much make it to your brain.
It doesn't because of the penetration rate, but I'm just saying, but
Why risk
if
it
you're
when you don't need it?
in a pro sport, you can only use an NSF certified product, and this gives you a product that you're allowed to use, let's just say.
Got it. Got it.
So if I'm a clinician working with the broad general population, I get pro sports and collegiate sports, all that, they definitely have to be a little bit more aware. But if I'm dealing with, patients who have coming in with chronic knee pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, is there any much more benefit using a higher THC product versus a broad spectrum product? Are there any major benefits or more benefits in using the one with higher THC is a question for that
Higher
situation?
THC, people use it for more relaxation and maybe for sleep, to help some of those where they may either ingest it or obviously sometimes they use some types of different rubs that allow them to say relax and get into sleep, because some people have a different problems falling asleep.
Yeah, got it. But really, for the typical clinician using general population, you're better off sticking with the broad spectrum, low THC. It's going to give you primarily the same benefit for that protocol, for that situation.
Correct, because then you can still go higher doses of CBD and with no side effects.
Gotcha.
All the products from the CBD Healthcare Company are no less than, say, 500 milligrams, right, per ounce. Where when you go, sometimes you see them at some of these different stores, you see 20, 40 milligrams, and I don't think there's much benefit in that. You have to get to some higher dosages. And
I got you.
With some of these products, you can get, we have 2,000 milligram of CBD per ounce, right? But there's no THC from that kind of side effect.
Give us some of the feedback you've gotten. I know you probably work with a really good cross section of practitioners, soft tissue, training athletes, doing rehab. Just give us some of the feedback you're getting from the field, or just some of the creative ways people are using it, or some of the success or questions come up from it.
Well, first, I usually get the question of, what should we look for in using a product? Then we usually try to talk to most of the clinicians about, Glide and how to use it with some of the protocols. A lot of the feedback has been in a positive way, to where they, they're saying, hey, their client said they felt better, they had good recovery the next day. Nothing's been instantaneous. I will say that. No one said, oh, after one treatment, I'm better. It's something that you're going to use, 2 to 3 times, to where you can start to feel that benefit of, when you put it along with a protocol, to where they start to feel better as far as range of motion, or if they start to see a difference in, inflammation, from a pain management standpoint. We've actually seen some really good benefit and good responses from the clinicians.
Well, no, I like the fact that you came right out of the gates by saying it supports your treatment, which also infers that it's not a solitary treatment. It's part of a systematic approach to saying, all right, now we got the pain compartmentalized. Let's help you manage it while we continue working on the source, the causes, the behaviors, the dysfunctions, whatever else we're unpacking. That, that's the whole point that I'm excited about upstream medicine. Just because we got onto the thing that causes it doesn't mean we're not concerned with the symptoms that you're going to have for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So a lot of times, right, coming out of the gates with the SFMA, I said the secret in our sauce is we attack dysfunction. It doesn't mean we don't manage pain. It doesn't mean we don't offer up treatments. The point is, we like to go ahead and make full disclosure that chasing the pain ain't the way we're going to get this tiger by the tail. But it doesn't mean we're not very concerned about keeping things as comfortable as possible while we do that.
Well, one thing is that we know with all the protocols that we discussed, and even adding the CBD, even in between manual therapy, sometimes you put somebody on a table, or you're doing the eye stem, or you're doing some cupping, right? We're going to add some of these exercises that you see up on your posters in between that. Did we get the restriction out, right? So if there was a movement restriction, put you on the table real quick, see how you feel, or do some stretching along with it, with some of the, and then you're using the CBD to get a better outcome. But you're using all these exercises in behind you, or behind me, right? Up on the posters that, you're going to put someone on the table, you're going to scrape them, you're going to do you say 90 seconds, 120 seconds, whatever it is. And then you're going to get out, hey, you're going to have someone move around. How do you feel? If not, let's get back on the table. Let's continue to work. So all of this is in conjunction with with the treatment, right, using the topical as well as using the exercise, right, the corrective exercises to make sure we're getting the outcome that we want from whoever, right, from
Yep.
the weekend warrior to or the professional athlete. We got to make sure that they're all moving better. That's really why we're doing this.
Well, it wasn't too long ago that the word pliability got in our mouths, and that was the TB12 and tissue work, and I think we heard all the secrets behind Tom Brady's success, and the success he had with Alex. But one thing that I think is a very understated topic in physical medicine is all three of us have dealt with athletes that had an injury, but we've equally dealt with athletes that had surgery. And with surgery comes a scar. And a scar is the superficial little zipper that we see. But if we think 3D, you're cutting down through layers, sometimes all the way to bone. So if we think about the fascial matrix that Tom Myers has given us and the different studies of fascia have given us, you're cutting through multiple layers that should glide freely. And obviously, if a surgery was done, hopefully it was needed, but the scar that's created by that is often not real comfortable when we do manual therapy. But if we let that scar remain adhesed, it can be a problem in unto itself. So let's take the conversation into a place that I've actually used your products. We have the ACL scar, we have the back surgery scar, we have the hernia scar, whatever it is. And I start doing some soft tissue and that scar is locked down. Now, they're only going to be able to tolerate but so much scar manipulation each day. But when I started dry needling, I realized how much improvement in movement, right back to the posters, I get by treating that scar like a fixation. Well, if I want to get pretty aggressive with that scar, anything I can have to make them more comfortable, I'll do. And I can tell you this, I've done ice after working with a scar, both manually and dry needling, and I've used the CBD during the treatment and just said, keep it on there till your shower. My responses are better with CBD than ice. And that's just for post-surgical or injury-based scar manipulation, but the scar is completely healed. It's just this little keloid thing, or it's this little, just not quite as much tissue slide right there. I can actually get more done with less irritation that way than I used to in the past. And so
so even from the ice response or heat response or whatever you're doing, those are, let's say, short lasting, to where when you're using the CBD, even during the treatment, it does build the reservoir under the skin. So you're still getting benefit long after they're done and they go home, right? Because the CBD is penetrating into the skin, it's getting absorbed, it creates a reservoir. If they reapply it later on, if you tell them, hey, you're going to use it again, maybe 2 more times, throughout the day or the next day, you're creating that reservoir on the skin. So you're constantly getting that benefit of the inflammation response, or where the CBD is helping getting back to the homeostasis piece, right? So
no, Matt, that's
ice is only lasts X amount of time, right? The heat's only lasts X amount of time, and then your body adjusts back to normal temperature, where the CBD is going to be in there. It's going to last for for long after that treatment.
No, that pretty much explains that how it's working, because literally I had somebody they fractured their femur in an auto accident. They had a femoral rod. Because of the injury and the way the femur broke, we had about a 10.5-inch scar. And, I couldn't do all that work. But after me working with it 2 or 3 times and seeing a positive response every time, I am absolutely fine with them using their own topical and working on their own scar, because this is a long-term job where you're going to be working on the scar long after you don't know me, and being able to give them that resource and say, stay on this job, get that tissue more pliable. And if this helps, keep it up. And it really was, it was a good, I felt very comfortable discharging that patient because we got all the movement back, but that scar would still tighten up a bit, and it probably still will for the next 3 or 4 months as healing occurs. If they got to go back through that scar and get the rod, it's going to happen again. But either way, the more we can get, because that was right through the IT band, so we got a lot going on there. But 3 or 4 visits, I was able to transfer that self-care over to them and kept on going. And that was a good handoff.
Yeah, well, someone just so applying it in between the times when they come to see you for treatment, they're going to be using it the next day to where, it's absorbing into the skin and they're getting the benefit to manage that inflammation response that you created.
And like I said, the scar is already more sensitive. So you gave me a competitive advantage I didn't have before because I can't hit that scar with a laser and I got to be very careful with ultrasound because of the heat generation. This is allowing me to do pure mechanical, but about a third more than I would do without getting irritation. Whereas ice alone, I had to go slow and take more time and make them be just as conservative because if that scar breaks open or we irritate it anyway, we got to lay off of it for 3 days. It's already got worse circulation. So no, that was a big one. And I just sort of thought outside of the box. I'm like, this is a no-brainer right here. This is something we can use. And the patient did fine with it.
No, I think just as for a recap, I think we, as far as for people that are considering new options, right? That are that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a new option for people to move away from, say, some of the NSAIDs. Then it's not the end all be all, right? It's something that it gives them an option that fits into the pain, inflammation, and response. It can be used, adopted into protocols, and it's adopted into exercise, right? Into the corrective exercise. So I think people who have some interest, we have a product that they should be comfortable with, right? It's a certified product. It's got, the gold standard, the NSF. It's the first one in the world, right? From a personal care or a topical standpoint. We're just looking for people to feel comfortable as they're trying to seek maybe a holistic or their own version of how they want to manage themselves and be comfortable, right? So
what will it do for my bald spot?
Absolutely nothing.
Because I shot some videos for Lee this summer. We got this overhead camera, and I didn't like what I saw, but I can handle it.
How about this?
But if he ever gets a bald spot, he can't.
I will never have a bald spot. I am good to go.
You have a bald spot, and you get a sunburn.
Might create a bald spot for me.
Manage the pain.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, it was a good meeting with you and learning about that product about a year ago because I have looked for opportunities to put it in my practice and just give it a fair shake and some feedback. And I've had way more opportunities where I think it gave me an advantage than it didn't. So that was a good.
So we're always looking for different stuff. This won't be the end, right? We're always going to search to get positive outcomes with our patients and clients and family and friends and even on yourself, right? And so this is just something that I've adopted. It won't be the last thing that I use, but it's definitely something that I'm using now because I'm trying to move away from using the NSAIDs all the time or even prescription anti-inflammatories. Because I didn't want to be that person that says, "Oh, it's never going to happen to me." And for 22 years, I've been gobbling down pills, and guess what? Something happened to me. Right. Yeah. So none of us are going to escape that, and with age. So I think you should, create some opportunity to look at some alternatives and just reduce. I'm not saying you're doing away with, because we're not doing away with prescription drugs, right? I'm not that, but just create some options for you to do a little less, right? So that we have long-term health and quit beating yourself up. I'm doing it externally, right? When I go outside and exercise, but not internally to where that's where your real health is.
Well, Matt, the one thing I want to compliment you on is we finish this thing up, because you're dual credential, because you're an ATC and strength coach, I think having to embrace both those. One is let's coach you up and push you as hard as we can. The other is let's cool you off and take care of you. And being able to make both arguments, right? I honestly think makes you think outside of the box and be more interested in some new innovations that help you serve better on both sides of that thing. So, dual credentialed does force you to think in one camp or the other. And most people get credentialed and then get the other credential, but they don't really make good arguments. Like I became a physical therapist and strength coach the very same year. And sometimes I catch myself being the conservative rehab guy. And sometimes I catch myself saying, just get after it, coach it up, and let's see what happens. And I honestly think making those arguments, when you can make an argument for something on both sides of that fence, that's a good thought. It gives you good conversations both ways.
We moved out of those silos to where this is what we do in the training room and this is what we do in the weight room, to where we've blurred the lines a little bit, and we're doing some things that we used to do in the training room and the weight room, and we used to do in the weight room and doing it in the training room, right? We're all, you still have your silo to some degree, but at the end of the day, we're doing a way better job of communication. We're not afraid to take something out of the training room and dump it into the weight room and vice versa. And this is one of those areas where there might be some guy who's on a squat rack, says he's got some restriction in his hip or low back or hamstring. Hey, let's get on the table for a few seconds, work something out, and we're going to dump you back onto the bar, right? So, and these are some of the things that you could use as we get more progressive in the way we implement all of our protocols, from athletic training to the performance side of it.
Got it.
Well, this is great, Matt. A lot of great information. Appreciate you coming on, and can't wait to have you on again.
Thanks, man.
Well, one thing I will say is that one thing that we both share in agreement, you guys have your stuff, but you can get some of this at performbetter.com. We share that. You have your kits and stuff like that, and this product will be there as well. So make it easy for everybody.
They're early adopters of some of the best stuff we get to use. So you should be honored that you're right there too, man.
Yep, and we'll make it easy for you.
Anybody
interested in this, we'll put it down in the descriptions where they can find out where they can grab some of it.
Somebody puts the links in there.
I appreciate you.
I hope so.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Matt. If you want to learn more about today's podcast or dive deeper into functional movement systems information, check out some of the resources and offers we're providing in the description. That will do it for this episode of the Movement Podcast.
Thanks for listening. And if you liked what you heard, please take a minute and subscribe and review.
If you want to learn more about our system and take the next step in your own movement journey,
visit us at movementpod.com.
Until next time, be sure to first move well,
then move often.